All right.
All right, so we're joined by Stephanie Williams, the HR generalist, head recruiter at Taylor Power Systems in Clinton, Mississippi. We thank you so much for joining us. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. This is our college and career readiness class. We're in the manufacturing career cluster, which is so big in the state of Mississippi, even more so in the last few years. You guys are doing some great things over there at Taylor. And we're also recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, my good friend Willie Bates over at the Madison Career and Technical Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time to talk about this incredible company and all the great careers uh, over there at Taylor.
Okay. Let me get to the right thing. Okay, let's see. Well, I plan not to have a technical difficulty here. Where's my career? You can see it. Okay. I just want to talk about some of the careers that we have here at Taylor Power Systems. We are building generators here for standby power, and
Wow.
we have all of our stuff is made here in Clinton, and then we have the enclosures that are made in our plant in Richland. So the careers are wide open. So
Oh, big time.
the Taylor Power, as many of you know, is part of the Taylor Group, and these are some of the other companies that are a part of Taylor Power. We build forklifts, trucks, all kinds of things. So, but Taylor Power is specifically for our generators. Um, we have a premier design and manufacturing building here. It's 300,000 square feet.
Wow.
And then we have a metal fabrication facility over in Richland. We have 175 employees, and we were established 39 years ago by W.A. Taylor. And it's we've been in this building for, I think since I want to say the beginning of the 2000s. We were in a building over in Richland before that. So the first job I want to discuss is our assembler job. It is one of our entry level positions. It does require a high school diploma or a GED, an ability to use small hand tools and follow directions, written or verbal. The duties, as you can see in the pictures, we
There we
go.
go.
Um, the assembler position is an entry level position. You can come into this position with just a high school diploma or a GED. It does require the use of small hand tools. As you can see in the pictures, the assemblers are mounting and interconnecting the components. They're putting together some of the sub assemblies. And bolt up is one of the jobs. So you're assembling external parts, fans, covers, making sure all the bolts are, tightened down and everything. And that is, like I say, something that you can do with a high school diploma or a GED and little experience because, if you can use hand tools, we can teach you the rest. Okay, well, let's see. Where's my next slide here? Just don't want to go. There we go, electrical assembler. This is one I've just been working on this morning. Our electrical assembler is like a entry level or preparatory role to become a electrician. It too requires a high school diploma or GED. An electrical certificate is preferred, but definitely not required. And your ability to follow instructions, written or verbal. You will be looking at some schematics and some, technical drawings. So, an understanding of that is also important. You're doing some of the same things that an assembler does, but you're doing the electrical parts of it. You'll be, troubleshooting some of the electrical parts. You'll work with the electricians on the electrical harnesses and things like that. So again, it is not considered entry level. It is, more pay than the electrical assembler. And you come in and your main thing is being a journeyman to become an electrician. And it just takes usually between 6 to 12 months of being in an electrical assembler position in order to learn and develop all the skills that you need to move into the electrician position.
Yeah, and we actually, our students can get that electrical certificate in high school at our program over at the
Even
Career Center.
better.
So,
That's
yeah,
even
so
better.
anybody that's interested in that or in that program, this could be a great job to get into
Yeah,
after graduation.
this brings you right in a little bit above entry level, and gives you a very clear career path to being an electrician. I'm getting ready to promote about, I think it's 5 people into the electrician position that have been
That's
serving in
awesome.
this role. So, if you come in like this, then, I had a gentleman that came in last December, and he had an electrical certificate from Hines, and he's going to be promoted to an electrician here in the next couple weeks. So
That's awesome.
again, that's a sure career path to becoming an electrician. So the electrician, again, many of them have college or technical school certifications. I do have some master's level electricians that, have been journeymen and have, been part of a electrical union and that kind of thing. But you can do this with a high school diploma or a GED, because basically what we're doing is we're doing hands-on training and helping our employees develop the skills they need to be an electrician here at Taylor Power. The thing about being an electrician here, if I hire an electrician that has been, working on his own, maybe he had his own business, whatever, he's going to come in and he's going to be basically at the same level as an electrical assembler because his experience is not in generators. So that's one of the reasons we've been so successful with our career path of, you bring you in maybe as an assembler to an electrical assembler to an electrician. Again, you must have electrical experience and knowledge of wiring, AC/DC, must be able to use a multimeter, ability to use, tools, building and installing wiring harnesses. Of course, you're working with blueprints and schematics. You're assembling electrical subassemblies. You're debugging components. You work with R&D to help, like on new prototypes. You mount and interconnect the components and all other duties as assigned. So anything and everything that an electrician does in any other job site is something that they would be doing here, but it's specific to generators. So again,
awesome.
even I find that, if I have an experienced electrician that comes in, it's learning the generator piece that is, kind of the learning curve for an electrician. Load tests. These are our electricians, and this is what if they're so inclined, they can become a load test technician. And again, high school or GED, experience with power generators, understanding gas and diesel engines, ability to read and comprehend written and verbal instructions, and skill with small hand tools. And what they're doing is they're taking these in generators. There's a lot of power that runs through these things. So this is a job where you need to be really careful, but you're troubleshooting the generator, making sure all the components work, and conducting the load test on it so that, we know that it's ready to run and go to our customer. It has a complete checklist of, load test reports and production checklist. All of these electricians that are in this, we have 4 load testers. They all started out, well, the guy in the top, he started out as an assembler, and
Wow.
he promoted very quickly. Within 2 years, he was working as a tester. So
That's
again,
awesome.
if that's something that you want to do, we'll definitely put you on that career path to become a load tester. All right, fabrication. Our fabrication teams, again, we have a plant over in Richland that is, basically, um, their main thing that they do there is fabrication. And then we have a fabrication unit here in the Clinton plant. An industrial painter. This job is something that you can do with a high school diploma, but it really requires 5 years of industrial painting experience. I mean, you don't have to have any specific certification, but it's not entry level. There's a lot that goes into industrial painting. Anybody that goes into industrial painting must pass a pulmonary function test, and they're fitted with a respirator, which basically we've gone to these hoods. Respirators, if you've got facial hair or something like that, sometimes they're not as snug as they need to be. So we have these these respirator hoods that go on to protect them from the paint fumes. They perform duties where it comes to, they may be grinding or cleaning or washing and sanding the body, getting it ready to be painted. They mix the paints and the thinners. They have to be very familiar with OSHA regulations because they're dealing with hazardous material. They have to follow and inspect all EPA regulations, maintain proper labeling, on the drums where wasted product and stuff like that goes. They also maintain the daily material usage report. And this is really important because we don't want to run out of paint or thinner or any of the things that go along with this, because this is a big part of getting the enclosures for the generators ready. Once the generator is ready to, for the enclosure to fit down on it. They do a lot of other things. They work in the wash bay. They pretty much do anything they need to do, but their main thing is painting. We have 2 painters at each facility in the paint
Our
booth.
chemistry people might like that one. That's a
It's
a lot of chemistry knowledge in that.
Yeah, like I say, you're working with toxic fumes and stuff like that, but you've got the PPE to protect you from it. And it's really kind of like very satisfying to see the job once it's done, see the painted, enclosure and how nice it looks when it goes on top of the generator. So the paint line support people. The paint line, as you can see in the top picture, they're hanging parts on the little, like almost like a little conveyor thing, so that it goes through the paint booth, gets painted, and then comes out on the other side. That is, more of an entry level job, like an assembler. You can come in and get on paint support. I had a young man over at the R1 facility. He came in as a paint support technician, and then within a year he was a painter. That's something he wanted to do. So
That's
high
incredible.
school diploma or GED. Again, ability to read and understand instructions. Looking at technical manuals and things like that. Some of the things that your students do is really important so that they understand, not only verbal instructions but written instructions. You have have to have a command of math. Math is really important. You need to be able to do fractions. You need to be able to subtract and divide and all that kind of stuff. And work-related experience is helpful. If you've ever done anything that had to do with assembling or warehouse or something like that, that's helpful. But you can do it with, no experience, just a high school diploma and a GED. Basically, you're loading and unloading parts. You're masking things. Like there's some things that we have to mask before it goes into the paint booth because it's not going to be painted. You're operating the pre-treatment line. You're making sure the titration of the system is within spec. And again, all other duties as assigned. So I don't have any paint support people over here at Clinton. Our painters do all their own masking and prep. But over at the metal fabrication plant, because their main function is to build the enclosures, I have, I want to say at least 3 or 4 paint support people that that work over there. Brake press operator. This is another fabrication job. This is what bends the metal to make the enclosures that we make. We don't like just order the enclosure and it comes in little pieces and we put it together. We literally have to manufacture it, bend the metal, and that kind of thing. This job requires a 1-year certificate from a college or a technical school, and usually 3 years of related experience. Now, we have and we do have people that start out as fabrication helpers that eventually move into brake press simply because they have an interest in it. So you wouldn't just get hired right out of the chute, for a brake press operator, but you could, if you start out as a fabrication helper, work your way up to being a brake press operator. The guy in the bottom picture, he started out as a fab assembler and then, moved into brake press.
Now, let me ask you this, because
Uh-huh.
I see on there 1-year certificate from college or technical school, and I know
Mhm.
you guys have a great relationship with Hines and Holmes and all of our community colleges.
Mhm.
So obviously that would be a great place to get it. So if somebody wanted to get into this area, what
Mhm.
programs should they can look into at those community colleges to get that certificate?
Anything that really has to do with fabrication. Some of the people that come into brake press were welders. And
Okay.
like I say, some of them were laser cutters.
Okay.
Anything that has anything to do with cutting, bending metal, welding metal, anything that, where it has to do with, fabricating some type of, because we use several different kinds of metal. And
Okay.
another thing that is really important in brake press is math skills.
Okay.
Ability to look at a schematic, do your fractions, make sure you've got your uh, machine set up, because if you if you start bending a bunch of metal and you've bent it all at the wrong thing, that could cause a lot of waste. You don't want to be
Oh,
scrapping
big
a
time.
bunch of metal. um, that, like I say, they're a skill, it's considered a skilled level. And they're, like I say, they can be operating a drill press, a sander saw, tightening the press. We have, in the top picture, you'll see our Savinini, which is, it's a much more, I mean, it's not the most sophisticated, but it's a much more sophisticated brake press machine where it's more computerized. They set the computer schematic, and then they can bend metal like, 4 or 5 times quicker than a regular brake press. So
That's incredible.
yeah, it was a good investment, and something that, all of our brake press operators have learned to, set it up and use it. Um, it bends like 17 bends per minute, which a regular brake press operator could never do that.
Right.
So again, um, it adapts to the panel, geometry that you put in, and then it just goes to its job and starts bending the metal. Um, they work in fabrication to maintain, of course, safety standards. There's all kinds of, that metal sharp, and, you're lifting heavy metal too. So you got to be able to lift about 50 pounds. Um, you're provided with instruction and training. And of course, you have to maintain a clean and orderly workplace. So it's one of those things that if you have any kind of certificate in anything, whether it be welding or anything that has anything to do with fabrication or bending metal, that would be something that you would be interested in. And you may still come in as a fabrication helper, and then have one of our brake press operators and one of our fabrication leads train you. We've got a fabrication lead that he's pretty much trained just about every brake press operator we have. We have one brake press operator here in Clinton, and then we have about 6 of them over in Richland. And the one here in Clinton, he has just been promoted to brake press. He started out as a fabrication helper,
Wow.
and he stayed in that position for about a year. And the fabrication lead here, began training him because he had a interest in it, and he was, being able to
That's
do the
awesome.
bend. So, he was able to move. So I think, one of the things that I have, in my favor is I can put somebody on a career path. If you come in a basic entry level position and you have an interest in it, what I tell people in orientation is learn everything you can, make yourself indispensable. If you got any kind of downtime and your area is, clean and organized and you have an interest in learning something, they'll teach you. The laser cutter, which I think is the next one. No, the welder's the next. Welders, we do require a welding certificate. Well, it's preferred. We will hire welders with, years of experience. The welding fabrication supervisors had prefer if you don't have a certificate that you have about 3 years of welding experience. You have to another thing about welding is within your first 90 days, you have to pass a welding test. You have 2 opportunities to do it. So you maybe do one at 45 days. And that way, if you don't pass, you've got another, 45 days to practice to take it again. You must be able to read and comprehend blueprints, schematics, and drawings. Of course, you have to be able to use basic tools, and MIG and TIG experience is required. And they're all about this experience, but I have finally convinced my fabrication supervisors that hiring people right out of welding school is a good idea. So we do have one. We do have one welder that was just hired here who he has a little bit of experience, but the majority of his experience is experience that he did in his program. So again, they used to, just simply because of the type of welding we do, they used to require you have 3 to 5 years of welding experience, even with a certificate. But I've convinced them that, if they have, a desire to learn and that kind of thing, I'm always hire for fit and train for skill. I can train you how we do things here at Taylor if you've got a basic knowledge of welding, so.
Love it. Yeah. And that's such a great point for anybody interested in that.
Yeah. I have students all the time that are in the welding program that call up and are interested in that. And again, even if I bring them in as a fabrication helper, they can still, develop their skills and, move into a welding position. Again, they're performing all kinds of welding on a wide variety of metals. None of our stuff is exactly the same. So we've got all different types of metals. Calculating the measurements, again, a knowledge of math and fractions is absolutely necessary. Use of weld fixtures, gauges, and jigs. Assess the quality of the weld and, be able to identify anything that needs to be repaired or any flaws that are in it. And basically that's what you're doing in the actual welding test is you're bending, you're bending apart to a certain degree. And of course you have a written part of the test too. And the whole idea behind the bend is that it doesn't crack. If it cracks, then you're going to have to do that again. So you're inspecting the parts and you're measuring the equipment. You're wanting to make certain that the final weld out is perfect, and that the enclosure is ready to go on to the next process, whether it be paint or whatever, laser cutting or whatever. Fabrication assistant, again, this is one of those things where, you can come in with a high school diploma or a GED, and if you have any kind of technical inclination, you can read and comprehend written instructions, carry out verbal instructions, and you have a good basic math command of, particularly fractions, then you can work your way into doing something else. You can work your way into either being a welder or some kind of machine operator if you are interested in that kind of thing. Some of the duties the fabrication assistants are doing is, again, they're assisting with machine operation and fabrication duties. They're loading and unloading the metals off the table. That metal is heavy. They're getting products ready for the laser, the pallets, the skids. They may be applying rust preventative. They may be grinding, on some parts that need to be smoothed out, or sanding or grinding something that needs to be roughed up before paint. They plan assembly procedures that, they have their huddle every day and kind of get together about what they have, what are the hot jobs, what they need to do. They align components and bolts and screws and rivet things together. They clean and organize the work area and other duties as assigned. So again, that's kind of the entry level. If you're really into fabrication and you want to become a machine operator or a welder, the fabrication assistant is kind of like your inside track to doing that.
That's awesome.
The plasma laser operator. Okay.
Oh, that's pretty
This
cool.
is the thing that cuts the actual, like the Taylor emblem or the little, squares or rectangles and stuff in the metal that go on the outside
Oh,
of the
yeah.
enclosures that
Oh, I never
vents
thought
it.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be, the enclosures have to be vented. Most of the time, my plasma operator is going to have a certificate from a college or a technical school in some type of, metal cutting or some kind of fabrication and a minimum of 6 months experience. Again, that's not something that we can't, if you come in as a fabrication assistant, that we cannot teach you. I have welders who, when they have downtime, they work the laser. If like one of the laser operators is out or something like that. So once you get in that fabrication world, the whole idea is to learn as many things as you can. So
Man, that's cool.
coming in as a, ready to get it and hit it, fabrication assistant, you can learn all kinds of things because that's how the laser cutters, have learned their skills. Of course, again, math is really important. Being able to compute ratios, percentages, being able to work with fractions, all that's very important. You're setting something on a computer, so you want to be able to read the blueprint, adjust and operate a computer-controlled laser cutting machine. Loading and unloading the metal it's heavy, and you're putting it into the cutter. A lot of times, fabrication helpers are helping the laser cutter operator do that. So, they're right there next to that person and they're, able to learn a lot of the things about how he sets the machine and things like that. You've got to make your adjustments and, of course, inspect your parts when they come out and make sure everything's right and, it's ready to move on to the next part of the process. Okay, that's kind of my fabrication and my production people. Now let's talk a little bit about my warehouse and my material handlers. Everybody that comes to work here takes forklift training. So no matter what position,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Cool.
no matter what position you're in, you're going to learn how to drive a forklift. But material pullers, their forklift certification comes pretty quickly, and some of them come into the job with a forklift certification. They're actually the material pullers and handlers. They are, pulling the parts out of the warehouse, putting them on the tables. They have tables where they set up the entire job. So all the parts that are going to be needed for that job will go to the assembler ready on that table. So again, basic computer skills. They will get forklift certified, but they can come in. Material puller is also an entry-level job where you can come in with a high school or a GED. Again, must be able to read and comprehend written and verbal instructions. That's going to be key in any of these jobs. You're going to plan a schedule for pulling the parts based on the bill of materials, which jobs are prioritized, depending on the deadline for when the generator needs to go out to the customer. Big part of it is inventory, reports missing and damaged parts, and keeps their the work area clean and organized, because we don't ever want to run out of parts. And we do occasionally, but we try really hard for our material pullers to let our inventory control manager know when they're pulling the last thing or whatever. So material puller and handler, that again, that's one of any of these warehouse jobs you can do entry level. Warehouse support specialist, high school diploma or GED, basic computer skills, which everybody has anymore. You will get forklift certified, ability to read and comprehend instructions. And again, you're planning the effective work schedule when you're a work support specialist. You're pulling the parts as outlined by the bill of materials. The material handler may bring it to you, and the warehouse support person is actually putting the job parts together on the table before it, rolls over to the assembler. They have to communicate with supervisor again about missing and damaged parts, and keeping your work area clean and organized, of course, is very important. We've done a lot of work in our warehouse to set up bins and, have, the wires and all the kind of things, organized and color coded and all that, so that, we're pulling the right parts. Because, I mean, everybody's human, it's easy to make a mistake, but we also have scanners that can scan the barcode, so you're making sure you're getting the right part on the right job. So shipping and receiving, again, high school diploma or GED, basic computer skills, ability to read and follow directions. You're receiving and identifying boxes. You're storing the parts in the appropriate place in the warehouse. You're reconciling return goods. We have to know a lot about overseas shipping, because we get in and send out things overseas. They retrieve parts by sales order and shipping lists, and they assist the warehouse supervisor in setting up storage locations and maintaining cleanliness and orderly storage. That's something we've worked really, really hard on. We've had a lot of extra help in shipping and receiving, getting our warehouse organized so that, when you go and you look in that bin, that's where the part is. So just keeping things organized. If you're a little OCD, that's probably a great job for you, because you know that there's a place for everything and everything in its place, and that's pretty basically.
That's where it all begins in the manufacturing process, is having everything
Absolutely.
where to
You
find it.
pull the wrong part and it all, the whole line stops. So anyway. Now we're going to talk a little bit about research and development and product specialists. Our research and development team, they build all the prototypes for the wiring harnesses, the panels, and the generator working from the prototype schematics. They assemble electronic components, install mechanical equipment, do all of that, because one of the things that we do at Taylor Power is we go out into the field. Our salespeople and our R&D people go out in the field. They talk to the customer about what they need. Okay, so we can come back and actually build that with our engineering and our R&D team to the specs that the customer needs. So none of our generators are exactly alike. They're all just a little bit different, because
And I think that's so cool, because
Yeah.
that's people say that manufacturing is mundane. That's not going to happen at Taylor, because
No.
everything is customer specific.
Yeah, no, it won't happen. And, that makes it, a little bit challenging when you first come, because, you kind of think to yourself, okay, well, if I've done this wiring harness for this, this generator, then it may be, similar for this one. Well, maybe not, so that's one of the things that R&D does a lot with. They have R&D technical support manager, a lead. They have a technical support specialist. Most of these people, like Robbie up in the top, he was in the military and he was trained in the military. Our manager in R&D went through the diesel mechanic program at Heinz.
Yep.
Tyler in the bottom, he was trained in the military. So most of these positions require a technical degree and some kind of college or technical school. Again, we do have a trainee, and I'm going to get to that. And what that trainee is he is what am I going to try to call it? I'm losing my mind here. Let me get to it. What is he doing? I'm going to go all the way to the end, because that's where is he? Okay, yeah, he is a apprentice. Okay, so go all the way back. I couldn't remember the word. Sometimes my brain doesn't want to work well. But he is an apprentice from Heinz, and basically he's working with us as an R&D support tech trainee. And he's working, directly under Robbie and Tyler. He finished the electrical program at Heinz, and he has been with us almost a year. And the thing about the apprentice program, and we'll get to it at the end of the slideshow, is you can actually come to work with us while you're still in school.
That's
It is
awesome.
a certified apprentice program through the Department of Labor. You come in, they do have evening classes, so the student can come in. When they're still in school, they're limited to, I think it's 30, 35 or 36 hours a week.
I,
And
th- I would take that as a college student.
yeah, and they start out at, I think the rate starts, I think you start at 18 and then you move up at 6 months, and then if we keep you on and you're hired, then like as a trainee, he's making 20. And again,
Wow.
he's been here a year, and he's going to get another bump here at a year.
Wow.
And they're going to probably change his title from trainee to technician.
That's
He
awesome.
may spend a little bit more time as a trainee just because R&D has a lot of moving parts to it. But it was a fantastic opportunity. He's our very first, you know, guy to come through the program, the apprentice program, and I was really super pumped that he got to work in R&D. But again, we can put you in assembly, we can put you in fabrication, any warehouse, wherever. We can put those guys to work in the apprentice program. Okay, sales and industrial and residential. I'll just say this about salespeople. They have, I mean, if you look at that top picture, there probably is like 200 and something hours or 200 and something years of experience in that top picture. Most everybody that comes into the industrial sales under our general sales manager has anywhere from 3 to 5 years of experience selling generators. Okay, that's a super niche skill. I'm actually in a search right now for one. He will not hire you. I don't care what you've sold. It makes no. I've tried my best to get him to understand that those are, transferable skills in sales, but he will not hire you unless you have 3 to 5 years of selling generators. But we sell all kinds of generators to all kinds of businesses. Our large line, those big industrial generators, they power nursing homes and hospitals, and Amazon has a big one, all that kind of stuff. So being able to know the product, know exactly, what the customer demands, and being able to describe, how our product fits their need is huge. So our sales team is extremely experienced, and not only are they responsible for building new business, providing detailed quotes, they're also responsible for going to the presentations, attending trade shows, those kind of things. And then in the bottom picture is Ryan Montgomery, and he is our residential um, generator salesperson. And so he's the manager and the department all in one. And he sells home generators all over the southeast. So
That's awesome.
he's a busy man, but he started out with us. I don't know how long. I think Ryan's been with us about 5 years. So again, lots of experience. It's not one of the sales team is not one of those jobs you just walk into. It's something where you have to have built that niche skill in order to be able to sell generators. I mean, you wouldn't believe the things. Ryan does everything from hook them up to troubleshoot them to everything else when he sells a home generator. So okay, thing that comes through here. Their hands touch everything that goes through here, and they're going to make sure it's in accordance to specs. So there are quality control people. You can start as a detailer, with a high school education, and then the inspectors are usually they've been assemblers for quite some time, or some of them are actual electricians. There's lots of other careers you can have here. But the thing I really want to get to is our special apprentice program, students
There
enrolled in
you
the
go.
Hines Electrical Mechanical, and we've expanded that. Any program in the STEM part of Hines Community College, if
Oh,
you're
wow.
enrolled in any, it doesn't have to be electrical mechanical anymore. Any of those programs, you're eligible to begin work as an apprentice with Taylor Power. It is approved
Wow.
by the U.S. Department of Labor. It's an apprenticeship that's certified by them. Like I say, our first apprentice was hired as an R&D trainee. It's gone awesome. I would like to, anytime I have, like, for example, I'm getting ready to post a material handler. I would love if one of the students, we always try to give, the students at the Heinz program, first dibs if they, want to apply for one of our jobs. I usually send the program director the link so that if I can hire an apprentice for that job, I will. So we
That's
try to
awesome.
give them the first dibs on anything, that's entry level. So today I'll be posting a material handler, which is an entry level job. So sorry, I got you right up to the bell, but yeah, like I
No, you're
say,
fine. You're fine because we had a shortened schedule today.
yeah,
But before we go, just one thing I really wanted to hit on is that at Taylor, and I think this goes for all the entire Taylor umbrella, you guys love moving up from within.
we do.
And we have so many kids that say, I don't really want to go to college. And you just showed us a ton of careers that pay well, that have great benefits, that have a tangible product that is not, and like we mentioned, it's not mundane. You have something different every day. You're building new things every day. And
Hmm.
you want kids that can come in and learn, that can come in and have a great attitude, that are coachable, that have work ethic. And Taylor can be a great fit. And you don't have to go across the country to have a great manufacturing job. Right here in Clinton, Richland, and I know the other Taylor areas in Louisville and other places
Hmm.
really have the same atmosphere of we want people that can come in and learn and be trainable and coachable and are willing to learn our culture, our mission, and make a great product.
Exactly. I mean, that's really, promotion from within is huge for us because, when you come into one of these entry level jobs, if you have any inclination to do anything other than that, we will absolutely train you. We
That's
want
awesome.
people, we want people to, come in. I had a guy that came in as a material handler, and he had a real desire to learn electrical. So he went from material handler to electrical assembler, and he's getting ready to be promoted to an electrician. So, from any area, if you have a desire, to learn it, we will absolutely train you. So
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But
you're
I do have some
welcome.
questions I'm going to send you later, and we'll get
Good.
those answered. We'll get that forwarded to everybody, and we'll definitely get you in contact with our MCTC and our career fairs. But we thank you so much for joining us. Stephanie Williams at Taylor Power Systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, see ya.